Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you are in the world. I'm John, and this is the KAA Kajukenbo Deep Dive. So welcome back. My guest today is Grandmaster Tim Gagnier. Thank you for joining us, Grandmaster.
You're very welcome, sir.
And I did say your name right, Gagnier, right?
Yes,
Good.
it's a little bit French, and yeah, that's how I say it, man. I've
Oh,
heard it
good.
all different ways all my life.
Oh, I have an incredibly weird name, and I've heard the same thing all my life as well. Grandmaster Gagnier is a ninth degree black belt of the Gaylord branch of Kajukenbo. He's been in Kaju about 40 years, is that right?
Yes, sir.
And is also the vice president of the KAA at the moment. Grandmaster, can you tell us a little bit when you got into martial arts, when you got into Kajukenbo?
Sure. I started my martial art journey around 1976, training with a friend of mine's dad who was a boxer. So in the 7th grade, I started boxing with his dad. He taught us how to hit the speed bag, hit the heavy bag, hit the timing bag. He was also a champion powerlifter. He had trophies all over the house. We idolized him. He was just a stud. And so I happened to, we started lifting weights like him, you know, and I'll try to make it quick and get to the point of your question. I ended up screwing my back up because I lifted weights incorrectly. So in the 8th grade, I went to bed a normal kid, woke up, and my left leg didn't work for 2 years of my life. And so through all of the things and doctors, and I was in Shriners Hospital for 2 months, and they did this what they call a myelogram, which showed them healed fractures in my lower back of where my spine was actually broken. And it, in the way that it healed in such a way, caused me some scoliosis and some my vertebrae were spiraling, and it pinched nerves and it made my left leg not work. So I was basically on a cane for 2 years of my cane and a crutch for 2 years of my life. Got through that through body cast and electrostimulus treatment and rehab type things, exercises, and we basically reformed my spine to alleviate the pressure on the nerves and alleviate the pressure off my leg. And so in that 2-year time, I lost an inch. It atrophied an inch. And I was very encouraged to get into an exercise program. So during my, I threw away my cane. As a junior in high school, I was, having issues with, just school in general because the time I missed and being on a cane and all, just kind of horrendous things like that. And I ended up dropping out of high school. And the next year, my parents put a lot of pressure, of course. I went to Benson Night School. And in Benson Night School, I met a guy named Paul Carpenter. And I overheard him talking about this really cool system of martial arts that he was training in. And I asked him about it. And he brought me to my first class, and I've been in Kajukenbo ever since. And that was early 1980.
Early 1980.
Yep. And I was, then I started my first Kajukenbo class. And I've been going strong ever since. Had a few hiccups, and we can talk about that later if you like. But anyway, yep, go ahead.
Yeah, well, that is a big part of life. And that's quite a story to get into when you're finding martial arts after an injury as well. What about when you found...
Let me add this, buddy. It's a little bit of divinity, right? Because had I not dropped out of high school, I would have never met Paul Carpenter, and I'd probably be in a Chase Taekwondo or an American States Karate right now, because I was actively looking for a martial art program because I was so interested in martial arts through the boxing I experienced with, my friend's dad, and then just, of course, watching Bruce Lee and others, and kicking. I was really intrigued with kicking and, that kind of thing. So I wanted to make my feet like my hands in a sense, So
that worked the same with me. I started in a McDojo. People have heard me talk about that. We were crashing and the students wanted to follow me wherever I went. And someone introduced me to Kajukenbo, to Ron Estella because of that. So when you say divinity, that kind of thing happens. What about Grandmaster Gaylord? When did you first meet him?
So first met Grandmaster Gaylord in the 1998-1999 period. And I went down to for one of his black belts, his famous, black belt workouts. Because through situations I had no control over, I had to make a choice to find somebody else to be responsible for my growth. And I'll just leave it there like that. And with that being said, I went and pursued my lineage. I wanted to stay within my lineage, which was Gaylord Method. And so I went down there, and he received me really well. I wrote a letter to him, and I basically went down there and presented him myself. And actually, your instructor, Grandmaster Ron Esteller, is the one who sponsored me to come to the black belt workout and meet Great Grandmaster Gaylord, and kind of got me in there. And I remember going down there, and I remember them asking me to show them forms and show them self-defense technique and all these kinds of things. And so I did that. It was fun. It was challenging too, because they threw a bunch of people at me, which was okay. I mean, not too bad, but it was okay. And they just wanted to see me in the Kajukenbo way, of course. So yeah, so it was around 1998, 1999 I met Grandmaster Gaylord for the first time.
Okay. So when you met him, you mentioned a little bit more about what happened that day. We were talking earlier about your first rib injury. Was that right? Was that your rib?
Well, yeah. So so I was under him. Let's see. So I received from 1998. I received my first promotion from him in 2003, and I was a 5th degree. I came to him as a 5th degree, and he promoted me. So I, flew down there, rented a car. It was during one of his birthday parties, and he would have these birthday parties, and they were a lot of fun. And then, demos and things like that, and different things and promotions. And he called me up there to promote me, and he promoted me to 7th degree, along with Grandmaster John Bono. We got promoted to 7th degree together, and I was perplexed because he took me from 5th to 7th, and I'm like, I literally was, my jaw dropped. I didn't know what to say. I was like, what do I say? And I said, Grandmaster, Great Grandmaster, are you sure? Because of the type of promotion. And he looked at me and he goes, are you questioning me? Didn't you ask me to be responsible for your growth? Haven't I done everything you asked, and you've done everything? He kind of just laid it out to me, and I'm like, okay, yes sir, thank you so much. I will cherish this promotion, and I walked back to my table. Well, then it was his turn to do the demos, and I'm in my nice clothes, I'm kind of a little bit decked out because I knew I wasn't going to work out. I didn't bring anybody with me for a demo or anything. So anyway, so he goes walking up there with the line of people, and he walks past my table, turns around, looks at me, goes like this, come on, Tim, come up here and get your butt kicked.
Uh-oh.
It's like, okay. So somebody posted a video recently that's been on Facebook that you saw, and you actually saw the demo. So you can see what I'm talking about. And so we made a monkey line in front of him. We started attacking him, and he just was dealing with us. And I think it was the 3rd time through, if I remember correctly, that I threw a punch at him. He took me down, and he looked at me, and I was kind of like playing a little bit, and I had my legs shake, because he would boom, boom, boom. And then he just looked at me again, and he had me down. He was holding me down, and then he just punched the side of me really hard.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I didn't really think anything of it. It's Kaj and all that. I go back to my room, and I'm like moving around. And I'm like, oh my God, my rib really hurts. And, so I'm like trying to push it around, and I brought, Jow and Posamon oil and things like that. And I treated it and everything. And then the next day was the seminar, and I can't remember the Grandmaster's name, but he had a boxing ring in his gym. You probably know who I'm talking about. I just can't remember his name. And, I made it through the first couple of people, but then Grandmaster Tom Theophanopoulos had his jiu-jitsu section that he taught. And when I had people pushing on me and now I'm rolling, I couldn't do it because I was in so much pain.
Uh-huh.
So I asked John, Grandmaster, now John, since he's a chiropractor, and he goes, dude, can you look at this here for me? And he feels around, he goes, dude, your rib's out. And I'm like, okay. He goes, I can put it back in, but it's going to hurt like shit. And I'm like, okay, do what you got to do. So he put me on the boxing ring and he did these maneuvers, and oh my God, yes, it did hurt, but it got put back in. And the next day it felt a little better, a little better, a little better. So that was like, yeah, that was a little story there about that promotion.
Yeah, funny thing
I think he
about
hit me, wanted to make sure that, yeah, it is, one may make sure that I never question him again and just to trust him. And ever since then, of course, I never looked back, and I just tried to be the best I could be for him and represent Gaylord Method the best that I could, absolutely the best I could. So
excellent. And yeah, I was saying it's a funny thing about Kajukenbo. You learn how to hurt people, and then you learn how to put your rib back in place too.
Exactly.
So,
but he was one of the kindest, dearest mans that I just, yeah. Anyway, couldn't ask for a better person to be responsible for my growth.
That's going to be my next question.
Go ahead.
Tell us a bit more. What was he like? How would you describe him, his character, his personality?
So, he was all about belief in self, and he believed he can do anything, that man. And, kind of a story, I think, to support that is, when he had passed, I stayed at his house. I landed at the airport, right, and then as soon as I turned my phone back on, I got the message that he passed. And so I went to his house like normal, and I stayed there a little over a week, and I worked with Gaylord's daughters, and we were going through all of his things and finding pictures and getting ready for that first intimate, memorial service for Great Grandmaster. And I got to learn about some of the things about him and what he did. And I heard about this couch that they had in his house, and one of the cushions was all cut up, and that's where he would practice his samurai, cutting things in half and being accurate. And then I heard about these stories about Brian Yoshi and Great Grandmaster Juarez putting carrots in their neck, and he would blindfold cut these things. And I've never got to see it, but I saw pictures of it. And so he was so inspiring to me from the belief side of things. He always told me to, you can do anything if you put your mind to it. And, through the various seminars that I attended, while he was alive and everything, which I tried down there as much. And he came up here to Oregon and did a few seminars, and in Idaho did, some seminars, and I was a part of those. And just the way he got people to hold their hands together and try to pull each other apart and all these other things, and we all know his breaking demonstrations were legendary. And, he just believed he could do anything. And so I took that as inspiration, and that belief, especially when I, met him the first time and believe that I can transcend some of the problems I had here in the Pacific Northwest and become, a good martial arts under his tutelage and his lineage. So he was just an amazing, inspiring man to all of us. And I could go into other stories too, but that, basically about belief in self, that was his main thing that, resonated with me and I took to heart.
Yeah, I think it's interesting that you mentioned the samurai cutting, samurai sword cutting the carrot on people's necks. We don't really do that for training. You're not training that kind of thing to fight on the street, but the idea that we're doing these things for becoming mentally stronger, like you're saying, believing yourself, what you can do, that is a much deeper point in Kajukenbo, I think.
Well, and talk about a experience of honing your focus and concentration to a level that you could possibly hurt somebody or even kill them. And you have people who are loyal enough to let it happen and be the guinea pigs for that. The trust factor, the belief in self factor, as I mentioned, was it, it's off the charts.
Mhm.
So that was just, it was incredible. That was just an incredible, just him as a man in those aspects were just incredible to me.
Yeah.
Inspired me greatly.
So, with that in mind, what would you say was the biggest impact he had on the martial arts or on the world as who he was? What was his biggest impact?
I think, or I believe that the way he carried himself and how he spoke and and who he got involved with versus who he didn't get involved with. Um, the man had the utmost respect of any martial artist in our system, and the way he conducted himself. And we all have had our times and troubles interfacing with certain peoples or schools or whatever. He was just, to me, an example of transparency, loyalty, dedication, belief in self. I mean, he reflected that. And I think a lot of people got a lot out of that, including his org, the KAA, as we're doing now. And um, yeah, I think his impact really was far reaching
Mhm.
and more so than people realize, including other lineages and other styles, and in relation to Kajukenbo. I mean, he had, to me, he had a huge impact.
Mhm. All right. And it sounded like he had a big impact on your life as well, personally.
Yes, he did. Yes, he did. He saved me
Mhm.
because I could say I was going down a path. I didn't have anybody here to be responsible for my growth. I didn't know what I was going to do. So he basically saved me from myself and helped me reintegrate back into Kajukenbo and help me see what it was and help me see why I should stay connected and stay loyal and stay in the belief of self and the self-expression and all that. So yeah, he basically saved my life. Kajukenbo saved my life, in general, right? As I mentioned earlier, I dropped out of high school and I met, I talked about the divinity factor, and I, it, I, because I got so behind in school and I didn't know if I was going to go to college, I didn't know what I was going to do with my life. Well, joining that first martial art class and joining and being disciplined and working on those things, I went to a 5th year in high school and I graduated. I got my diploma. Then I went on to college, and I got my 2-year certificate in electronic service technology, and I've worked for Intel for the last almost 28 years now, and I'm a hardware engineer. So I attribute Kajukenbo and then later Gaylord is, as far as my self-expression,
Mhm.
is it saved my life. It absolutely saved my life and made my life better.
Beautiful. So now, if you could pass any message on to Grandmaster Gaylord now, what would you want to tell him?
First of all, of course, and I know a lot of people have said this, is I would just like to thank him from my heart and soul for being willing to take me in and under his wing and be responsible for my growth with the issues that I had.
Mhm.
Um, I remember when I first came down there, he asked me to come after the seminar and we took a walk around the block and he asked me more questions about what I was going through in the Pacific Northwest. And he just, that walk around the block was really, I think, for the both of us, that conjoined us. That really cemented our relationship moving forward. And I would like to thank him for that. And then I would also like to thank him for the inspiration that, about belief in self that I mentioned earlier. I mean, I couldn't do the things that I've done in my life, not just in martial arts, but elsewhere, if without his guidance. So, I mean, I know of course he's not a god or a deity, but I almost consider him that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I hope, I really believe, I like to look up to heaven and say, isn't it wonderful what you've created? And look at what's going on right now, and imagine the smile on his face, you know. And I would lastly like to tell him that I'm so proud to serve the KAA and try to work with the other members, the board members, and make things great for his lineage. And there are things going on that absolutely will cement his lineage and make it relevant and current, and his legacy is going to live forever. I promise you that. One of the other things I would like to humorously thank great Grandmaster Gaylord for is when he would send me his MP3 files of his karaoke singing. And he became very tech savvy.
Uh-huh.
And because of his tech savviness, he learned how to turn on a receipt when he sent an email, so that when you read the email, he would know that you read it.
Uh-huh.
But guess what else? He would also know if you deleted it. And so, because it would give a response that this email that you sent was deleted without it being read. And so I remember deleting one because he sent me a lot. He sent me a lot of videos. And he called me on the phone and he goes, "How come you deleted my video? Didn't you like my singing?" And I just had to laugh. I go, "Oh, sorry, sir. Sorry. No. I have most of your videos, and I have them saved in an archive." And I do, actually. I still have them today. And, and so I'm sorry. Don't worry. I will never delete a video again. I'll make sure I archive it. But it was really funny just how tech savvy he was and that call. So, I guess that's another story for you.
All right, well, we're about finished for today. Thank you for joining us, Grandmaster. I'm really happy we were able to get this at the right time. I know you're in Oregon, I'm in Japan, and today is daylight savings time, right? Or was that yesterday?
Yes. So, we sprang forward today.
Yes.
Right, and I would like to say one more thing.
Sure.
I really want to thank you, Sifu, John, because your efforts to bring the Grandmasters stories and to the forefront. I mean, it helps all the students connect. So I really thank you for all of your hard work on this, and I just appreciate you, very much.
Thank you.
So thank you for everything you're doing.
I appreciate that. It's nothing without you guys helping out. I mean, this is all collecting the stories from Grandmaster. So I appreciate those words as well. Thank you. And for those of you at home, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed the show. Feel free to contact us if you have questions. But we look forward to our next show. Until then, stay strong. Stay Kajukenbo strong. Mahalo.
Mahalo.